Over the past 30 years, we've lost about 35% of the giraffe population. We now have about 110,000 giraffes remaining in the wild. So in giraffe language, that means we've lost about 35% of the population in 3 generations. So that's a quite steep decline. If you look from the information that we have, giraffes have gone extinct in 7 different African countries. They're now found only in 21 different countries. And Kenya is the only country that has 3 different types of giraffes.
Number one threat to Africa's wildlife is habitat loss. This is a competition for space between human activities and the needs for wildlife. Human activities is our need for agriculture, expansion of agriculture, industrialization, human settlements, infrastructure that we need for development is competing for space for wildlife. And the wildlife is caught in between those needs. The second threat, especially for giraffes, is unsustainable hunting, bad practices of hunting, and also poaching is a big number. Recent survey, online survey, we found that a number of actually giraffes are illegally imported to Europe and the United States of America. Those are the number 2 places where giraffes are mostly trafficked.
Another problem that affects giraffes is climate change. We've seen the erratic climatic patterns, and this is really important because when you do have long rains, these cuts off some areas that animals can access. Also, in terms of droughts, the plants die out, and then animals are forced to eat plants that they do not usually eat. So we did see this a couple of years ago, where in areas such as Garissa, animals died because they were eating on plants that they do not usually eat. These other plants that they ate had high levels of a compound called tannins, and that affected their biology, and they died out. So we really do need to pay attention to climate change and all these different patterns that are coming up in the weather, and see how we can best address them so that we can protect the habitats and landscapes where we have wildlife. So there was a proposal to the Convention of Migratory Species to list giraffes on Appendix 2. What this does, it brings all the range states to better protect the animals. So some of the key things that were listed was to better protect the habitat where giraffes are found, so that these giraffes can become a flagship species, so to speak, to protect other wildlife. And this is really important because the Convention of Migratory Species looks at animals that move across landscapes. So this is particularly important for a country such as Kenya, which has transboundary species. So by transboundary, we mean animals that are moving across international borders. So that's really important. If you think of the borders shared between Kenya and Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, we do have giraffe populations across these areas. And if these countries can come together to protect these core habitats, then we think that that can be a brighter future for giraffe conservation.